Hey, fellow traveler, welcome to Third Eye Awakening. This is a podcast all about spiritual and psychic awakening, where we talk about things like the shift from 3D to 5D consciousness, the nature of time, space, the universe, the multiverse, multidimensionality, starseeds, the Akashic Records, all the things. I'm so glad that you're here with me today. I appreciate you so very much. All right, let's get into it. Hey, beautiful beings. Welcome back for another episode of Third Eye Awakening. I am your host, Amy Belair. Before we get started, if you want to creep me on Instagram, you can check me out at thenorthstar.love. And if you like what we're talking about here on the podcast and you'd like to be part of an interactive community, then come join my free private Facebook group called Soul Space. Just send me a request and I'll add you. I would love to have you there. Hello, beautiful beings. Well, I have a beautiful interview for you today. Before we get started, I just wanted to share one last time about my program Into the Akasha, Activate Your Soul Code through the Akashic Records. I'm really excited about it. It just started yesterday, and I'm going to leave it open. If you're a podcast listener, I'm going to leave it open for one more day. That is the day that this podcast is published. So it'll be Sunday if you're in, the Northern Hemisphere, Monday if you're in the Southern Hemisphere, because I was supposed to post this podcast episode yesterday, but I had so much on my plate and I got literally everything else done. So I'm very proud of myself, but it is what it is. I'm really excited about it. I can't promote it highly enough because I believe in it so much. I feel like this information, this ability is literally life-changing. It literally changed my life, transformed my perspective, saved my sanity essentially, and helped me to further see the beauty in a very difficult situation. And I've been able to apply it in the same way since. I feel like I'm seldom in the dark anymore. I'm seldom confused anymore. Of course, I still have my own blind spots where I am concerned and my life is concerned. But for the most part, I feel so centered in my own knowing and my own connection to the truth as it is relevant to me and my soul journey, my purpose for being here, my future potentials, my past traumas, or, my past experiences that are manifesting as kind of blockages or patterns I wish to change now, all kinds of things. There's really no limit to what I use the Akashic Records for. And I feel like, why wouldn't you want to learn about it? I mean, of course, if it doesn't feel aligned to you, then don't learn about it. But if it feels aligned to you, whether you join me in this round or you wait for another future round, I really, I believe in this stuff and I believe in this program so much, and I believe in the information that is being channeled through me to share. And I'm so excited to start sharing it with people. So if you're catching this podcast today, on the day that it comes out, again, that's Sunday, June 7th, if you are in the Northern Hemisphere, and Monday, June 8th, if you are in the Southern Hemisphere, and you want to join, then head on over to, you can connect with me either on Facebook or Instagram, the usual places, or my website, which is www.thenorthstarguidance.com. The program is up on the website, but whatever way you want to get in touch with me is all good. Anyway, that's it. I'm never talking about this program again until I run it again. I think I promised that, but I don't really know. Anyway, the interview that I have for you today is really beautiful. I honestly love Connie so much. I can't even really put my finger on what it is about her, but I think it's just her genuine kindness and authenticity and openness and you can just literally feel the light and the love coming off of her. She's just one of those pure feeling souls. I mean, I know she's still a human and all that. Her human is still human, but her soul just feels so clear and pure and beautiful. And just to even be in conversation with her was so uplifting and healing for me. She truly is a healer. She truly is a healer. Connie has worked her whole adult life as a nurse, and she also works as a health and wellness coach. Now, I'm not sure if she's working as a nurse right now, actually. It's been some months since we did this interview. But anyway, I know that she's in her own business, which is like health coaching, health guidance, health information, wellness information, and just like living your best life and being the happiest. She's been through some things in her life, you know, I mean, as we all have, but she lost her husband when they were parents, you know, when he was young. I don't know the actual age that he was, but I know that they had 3 beautiful daughters together, one of which is the amazing Viola Hug. I love her forever. And yeah, suddenly she was, you know, watching the love of her life pass away and wondering how she was going to carry on with all that grief, and yet, you know, needing to be strong for 3 beautiful young daughters. And she must have done something right, because it seems to me, like I know Viola, and it seems to me through social media that all 3 of her daughters are very strong, very radiant beings in their own respective ways. And I just admire Connie so much. I value her time and sharing her story with us, and I hope that you enjoy this interview. I mean, I don't see how you can't. She's just an absolute delight. But anyway, I'll stop rambling on about how much I love her and actually turn it over to the interview so you can love her too. Welcome to Third Eye Awakening. Thanks for listening today. I have with me Connie Hug, and she's going to talk to us about her spiritual awakening experience today. I'm very excited. Connie lives in Canada's East Coast at present. She's an online wellness and life coach, and she works part-time in nursing. With 40 years of knowledge and skill in traditional public health care, a lifelong passion and intuitive knowing of natural remedies and methods, Connie's skills, intuitive gifts, and healing and holistic approach combine for mind, body, and soul. Welcome, Connie.
Well, hello. So nice to be here, Amy.
I'm so glad you're here. I'm really excited that you wanted to come on and talk all about spiritual awakening with me. I'm very excited.
Thank you so much for the nice intro as well. It's so exciting to be here.
I would love to hear you tell us a little bit more about yourself. I know because we're in a couple programs together, so I have a little bit more background knowledge about you. I know that you have been working as a nurse for a long time, and because I currently work as a midwife, I can just, you know, imagine what it's like to be somebody who has a more of a holistic approach and like a strong desire to help people working within the public healthcare system. It's definitely an interesting experience. I would love to hear from you, basically, like, you know, who you are, where you're from. We know where you are now, but where you're from, and about your background. What's brought you here so far in your life coaching and wellness coaching?
Well, I was born in Germany. I'll start there, right? Chronological thinking is probably easiest. In Germany, and I'm one of 4 children, you know, grew up in the after-war times, you know, where in Germany, like everything was about materialism and, you know, like economy has to be established away, and parents were pretty traumatized. But I grew up in a Catholic home. So my mother and my grandmother, who influenced me probably most in my upbringing, like spiritual religiously, was through the Catholic thinking. And of course, there was no room for allowing to be different, right? Everything was fearful and scary. And I believe I always like had maybe some visions or something different with me, but I was never allowed to, think about this is black magic, or you're not going to clairvoyance or like people like that, no, ever do that. Like typical Catholic upbringing, really, that was like doomed to be the bad stuff, and just what Jesus Christ said and what the church is actually dictating was the rule. And I really had a lot of eye problems, and I just remembered that a few years ago, that when I was probably 3 or 4 or 5 even, when I kind of look back, I always was a sick child, and it was around my eyes, and I had lots of mornings I had really crusted eyes and really pussy, and I couldn't open my eyes a lot, and people had their hands on my eyes a lot when I was a kid because they were so sick, and I don't know why that was, but it almost like it's like people, like my vision, my seeing was kind of stunned at that time.
Yeah.
Now, and I put that together now later in my life. I did not ever had any awareness around that, but kind of, I really tried to fit in as a child, but I always felt a little bit different. And, when the time came that I had to find a job, like helping and caring and healing people was like something which came so easy to me and so natural. I really fell into the profession of a nurse, but, I grew into it, and I really kind of enjoyed it and liked it, the part of the caring. And I was a pediatric nurse for many, many years, for 10 years, before I actually ever went to the grown-ups, because I really like children so much. But for me, it was I had to always be the income earner in my life. My husband was a very creative man and musician, and like very hard for him to keep up a stable job. So, once we had children and once we kind of moved into another country from Germany, I had the work permit and I had to provide. And nursing was kind of my job, which was a blessing because I could take it into different countries. But also within nursing, there was always this one part of me which completely knew what the politics are in healthcare, and what the rules are, and what I can say, and how I can keep myself safe. And then there was this other part of me which I just kind of could look at people, and I knew what they needed. And often in like annual reviews with my manager, it was said to me, that I have such a special touch how to advocate for people, understand the patient, and that I had a very different view on things. But, I could never put it together for many, many years. And my understanding that there is more, that really came pretty late in my life. I already lived like till 50 almost, and not knowing how to put it. I always had this little bit of a nudge in my heart. I like to do things, but that always came through my husband. That was my outlet for my adventurous spirit, that I wanted to do things different and where it was allowed, because my husband was also like a very adventurous person. And I think my husband he's passed now, but he had a really good connection like to spirit, because he could wake up with a dream and said, oh my God, I dreamt that we would live in the south in this beautiful big mansion, veranda on all sides around the house. And I think we have to just go and drive across the country till we find that house.
Wow, I love it.
He was like, and I said yes, because I had that inner nudge that I liked that stuff. Although I was always really looking out for safety, and was like being the financial supporter of the family, numbers and safety was always very important to me. So we were living in East Coast in Canada actually when that happened, but it was just the winter, beginning of winter, and it was really cold and it was really stressful. And we had 2 little children at the time. And he woke up one morning and he said, let's do it. And I said, well, how can we? And we kind of checked the numbers, and he says, let's just go and drive and we'll find a way. And we actually drove. It took us probably 2 weeks all across the east coast of the States, south, had Alabama kind of in our head, because my husband really was attached to that word because it had so many A's. He said, Alabama sounds really nice. So we only went with that kind of idea in our heads. And then we did find a house in Alabama, in Georgia. Not in Alabama, actually in Georgia. in small town called Hamilton, and we found that house. It was a
Wow.
big old state house, huge roof, veranda on all sides of this state house, and it was abandoned at the time when we found it, but the owners cleaned it up for us and we rented it. We lived there for a winter. Crazy stories. My husband kind of had those ideas. So I really had an outlet for my adventurous side to my husband's crazy ideas, which my family never supported. Like my husband was not really welcome in my family's home, because he kind of took me to those adventures. But after a while, it was always the time when I had to kind of get back into work and support the family, and we always found a way how to do it, even though we did quite some adventurous things through our lives. And then understanding all that was really just happened in the last 10 years, I would say, when I kind of talked to clairvoyance, got over my fear that is a bad thing, distanced myself quite a bit from religion and from church groups and stuff, and just kind of really through social media as well, hear that what other people have to say, and that really opened up like a completely new world. I am a spiritual being, I have a soul, and that whole understanding came really only in the last years. And that's when I kind of went on my journey to see, oh, who am I really? What's that soul in myself? And understanding that despite being so responsible, for raising children, and, I raised my children most like the last 14 years by myself, I had to be that responsible parent, but, I have an adventurous spirit. And like the last little adventurous thing which came out of that is that I actually let my job go. I had a beautiful home in New Zealand. I had friends. I had really established myself living in New Zealand for the last 8 years. And just out of the blue, kind of with some nudges from spirit ideas and, my intuition, wouldn't it be an adventure to let everything go and just see what happens and go across the world again and see what's going on in Canada? And see, I made it back to Canada now. So it was all on my own terms, really. I went maybe with a few ideas from like gifted people who can see that my soul really was wanting to have another adventure, and don't always believe that safety is what I need. And I actually feel quite unhappy. I wake up when I'm just stuck in like a work routine for day in and day out. My vibe, my whole happiness feeling goes away. Yeah. So I feel so much better, even just going out and going to a lake and go for a swim, or go to the ocean for a beach walk. That always really makes my happiness higher. So my vibes vibrate differently, and I can kind of see that now, but I couldn't see that in the past.
Oh, I love that. Oh my gosh, there are so many great things about that. I'm so blown away by the fact that your husband was like, I had a dream about this house and we're going to just drive until we find it. I don't know when, I don't know how we're going to get by. And I just think it's amazing that you went with him, because that must have been really hard, like really, really hard as the person in the family who kind of, I imagine when you're with somebody who's that adventurous and that intuitive and creative, that then you have to take on the role of that provides the balance. So yeah, even though you got an outlet through him, you didn't get to be that way yourself, because you had to be the anchoring person who stabilized the family.
Yeah.
And when you're in that role, it must be so like exciting, but so hard to just be like, okay, we're gonna just drive until we find a house that may or may not exist.
Exactly. And I tell you, in my head, it was always back and forth, oh, I like it. Oh no, I'm so fearful. What would happen if this, like there's a lot of fears were still attached at that time as well, right? But he could really, like my husband was a really strong supporter for me to break out of structure and system and safety, which that was what I was really thinking I needed. So that was really high value for me. That was my belief, safety is so important. And financial safety was like, it was connected mostly probably to financial safety.
Yeah.
Can't give up my job. And he says, oh yes, let's just do it. Look, we have some money. Let's just do it.
I love it. Oh Oh my gosh. And then I love hearing that, you see yourself as a soul on a journey now. I just think that's it's such a beautiful feeling. I feel like it changes your whole approach to life, and it also changes the way you approach yourself. Like, you know,
Exactly.
yeah, I think sometimes when we see ourselves as just human, we're so hard on ourselves and so critical of ourselves for our, you know, air quotes failings, or our shortcomings in this life. And when you see yourself as a soul on like a longer journey, it's easier to, I think, give yourself grace. I don't know. That's just my perspective anyway.
Yeah, no, I can totally agree to that. I've never felt like that free and, and secure without having my finances in place.
Yeah.
Just knowing that this is my soul's journey and there is a purpose in everything I do. Like life happens for me, and it all brings me further. Like all the challenges in my life, really had benefited me in the end in my soul's journey. Yeah. And that whole understanding, even, like I've been to clairvoyance, and some people tell me, I'm like I have lived many lives, an idea I've never knew about for most of my life, but now I know about it. And in previous lives I had different experiences, and and some of the fears attached to some things actually come from some past lifetimes. Or like one time I was also told, I have the healing. I know I have a really straight connection to source because I was like a high priest in one of my previous lives, and I have this knowledge of health and healing, and that's a gift. And that's kind of how my like my willingness or my openness to let my job go and go into entrepreneurship and be a wellness coach also comes, because there's so much I just know.
Yeah.
I thought when I was a young nurse, oh, that's just what everybody kind of does. Although I was always commented that I have a bit of a different gift, even in nursing, I kind of never put it into place. But now hearing those things, and just letting it allow that it could be a possibility, I do know what people need. And I have that clear channel, and I want to use that more. And that's, I'm just doing actually a gifted expert course,
Oh,
to really tap into my gifts a bit deeper, and really trust that. But it's such a beautiful thing to know. And that gives me, that like that security inside that, going into entrepreneurship and, doing something different again in my life, which is also an adventure,
yeah.
it's going to work out. That's just my soul wants that. And the more I align my soul with my life's purpose, the better it's going to be.
Yeah.
So, yeah, not to worry.
That's so exciting.
Yeah.
You can't, podcast listeners can't see, but my little 16-month-old daughter has decided to climb up on my lap and pull my earbuds out. So if you hear any funny microphone stuff, that's what it is, little fingers. That's really exciting. And what an amazing feeling too, to start to acknowledge gifts that we've taken for granted. I mean, I feel that's the whole sort of point of why I'm doing this podcast, because I feel like now when I tell my story, it makes me laugh that I took, my experiences for granted for so long. But I literally spent like pretty much my whole life up until about 3 years ago, I think, totally invalidating my own story and being like, oh, this is just normal. But not like, this is nothing special. This thing about me is just regular. I'm just a regular person, and, feeling like less amazing than I am. But we're all amazing. And it's such a great feeling to finally get there where you're like, oh, I have, like for you, I have this like ability to channel like healing, like healing light and healing, like understanding of how to take care of people and how to use different elements to help people, and to be willing to, like you said, like believe that it's possible, that these things are true, that you've carried this forth from another life, that it was an experience your soul had, that it therefore like wants to bring forward into other lives.
Exactly.
Such an amazing feeling to.
Yeah, it just gives you so much inner strength, I believe.
Yeah.
you know, walking more upright in life, you know, just trusting that there is more than what we see. I really liked the story about you when you talked about the painting you painted of the house.
Oh yeah.
You didn't even realize for half an hour that there was a tree. And things like that, you know, when I listen to your podcast about that, things like that happen to me too sometimes. You know, I look at things and I don't even see what really is there. You know, I just see what my eye can see. And then, you know, and then that makes so much sense, because why wouldn't there not be other spirits around us, you know, leading us and guiding us? You
Yeah.
know, there is more than what we see. And yeah, in my old thinking, there's no room and no capacity in my mind to allow that, because I think when I was young, you know, there was such a strict framework how my family believed, you know, and I grew into that, and there was just no way to allow those spiritual beliefs in there.
Well, and especially when there's a strict framework of what's acceptable, but then also when receive the messages that anything outside of that is from the devil, and to
Yeah.
be careful, because you're being tempted by the devil, who wants, to like take your soul for all of eternity and make you suffer in fire and pain for like that's such an intense story that we've been carrying around for many, many
Hundreds of years, yeah, the generations, yeah.
and it can't be taken for granted, the effect that it has on our psyches, that we are, that it's easier and more comfortable for us to stay safe and small, because it's such a deep fear. And often the people who tell us those things, like I'm sure that your family truly believed it and really wanted for you to not get tempted by the devil.
Yeah, they did the best they could. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
And so that makes it even more confusing, because if it's messaging coming from somebody that just hates you and doesn't have your best interest at heart, it's a lot easier to eventually recognize that and let it go. But when it's entangled with like loving relationships and good intentions,
Yes, you're right.
It's not surprising that it takes people, the better part of their lifetimes to begin to even feel like they can start to tackle
Yes.
those programs and those beliefs, and allow themselves to believe in the possibility of something else.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm so glad that actually this time in so many more people come, and talk about it, like you, and so many other people, they just stand up, that there's more, and we don't have to be fearful of spirits and, and of the unknown. Like, it's really, the light workers are stepping up, and this is so amazing. What a beautiful time to live right now,
I
to
think
really,
I
move forward and change the world.
time for, like you said, light workers, like all manner of people who have beautiful messages in their hearts, to feel like they can start sharing it without experiencing the horrible retribution that we've experienced in past times. And I
Yeah.
don't, like, for me, the Spanish Inquisition is the big one that really like puts that fear in me. But I know for a lot of people, it's the witch burnings. And whether they had a past life as a witch or not, like, we have a collective memory of people being like tortured and burned at the stake.
Yeah.
Are probably totally innocent of all of the accusations brought against them. And that really, like, that really scars us. And then of course we still have things that are ongoing, like in different parts of the world, where there's not so much tolerance. We are just very lucky to live in a place where we have this kind of freedom to be able to explore these things.
So true.
Yeah.
Can I just tell you one more story? There's Teresa Wolf. She's also like an online coach who steps up in her power, because she calls herself the intuitive witch. I met her through the social media as well.
Yeah.
And I had a lesson with, like, a coaching call with her, and looking into, like, because I felt really fearful before I left New Zealand.
Yeah.
Beginning of this year, to do this step, and we talked about, if there was any anchors in the past which I should let go. And Teresa asked me this one thing. She says, do you sometimes just have chatter in your mind and you talk to yourself quite a bit, the pro and cons in your head? And in that moment, I was in my one mind, where I was so practical and normal. And I said, no, I don't have that. She said, you don't have that. That's kind of your spirits talking to you. And that I said, and I honestly believed in that moment, no, I don't have chatter in my head. And then we kind of finished the talk. She said, oh, well, just look out for it, see what happens, blah, blah, blah. And then we like a half an hour later, an hour later, I was driving down the road or something, and that chatter started. And I said, oh my God, I wasn't even aware that I have so much chatter in my head all the time, because it seems to be like a different part in my brain.
Yeah.
And it just puts so much awareness into that. That is actually that voice that, my subconscious, my higher self, or whatever it is, like from somewhere else, and it goes through my mind, and I can actually allow to listen to it, because it sometimes gives me clues that it's not just all hush hush, I have to keep that in secret. And that was really a big breakthrough for me, oh my God, this is kind of normal, and I don't have to hide it. And I probably hid it all my life. And I always had it, but I was never aware of it. It was like a really big awakening for me.
You hid it even from yourself, really, it sounds like.
Yeah, I think I hid it from myself, because when somebody asked me, I said, no, I don't think that way. I've never chatter in my head. And it's all the time there, but I was not totally, like, I couldn't combine it with my awareness mind somehow. It's just weird. Anyway, that was a good session with Teresa.
I love
Highly
that.
recommend her, by the way, The Intuitive Witch.
The Wolf, The Intuitive Witch. I'm going to add her information to the show notes for this one. She's a gifted expert too.
Yes.
I'll have to put gifted experts as well. Connie's doing it now, and I just did it in the last round, and
you did
Rita and Viola did it together in the first round, and it's through Jessica Reed, and she is a clairvoyant in the channel, and she has just in the last few years realized that she's here to, part of her purpose is to help people reconnect with their gifts and build their confidence around their gifts. And so we've all done that, and I have to say that it was a really excellent program. Just a little plug for Jessica Reed, go check her out.
Yeah, check her out. I've just started her program, and it's amazing.
Very exciting.
Yeah, very exciting times.
So, okay, so I have a question for you. It's one of my questions is, what is your magic power? And it sounds like, well, you already explained the one about like having a gift for intuiting what people need when they're in a situation for, like, in terms of healthcare, but I imagine it's also like it's holistic, like their mind, their body, their spirit, their emotions. If that's your magic power, then I would love to hear you talk a little bit more deeply about that and how it feels to you when it comes through. And if you have any other magic powers as well, because we certainly don't only have to have one, I would love to hear what they are.
Well, I'm still actually trying to put it in words what my magic power is. I'm not that clear about it yet, but I do know that like when I see people and I listen to them and I see them, I think what I can do, I can kind of feel for them really easily. So it's I'm an empath.
Yes.
And understand what people need. And because of all my understanding of the holistic ways of herbal remedies, of going for the simplest way to treat things, for the least harmful ways, I always go intuitively with simple things, like some salt water, drink more water, like eat a balanced diet. Like, it's really the basics of our lives, like sleep more, train your brain to think positive thoughts, like things like that. I think my gift and my magic is that I can kind of feel what people need, because I have a really deep connection to other people. I think that's probably my magic.
I love that so much.
Yeah.
It's such a beautiful gift to have, because like you were just saying with your session with Teresa, for ourselves, we have such blind spots for what, like, on one hand, we know what we need, but on the other hand, we have all these layers of conditioning on top of ourselves that make it hard to hear our own intuition and to, be clear about what it is that we need, and to have somebody else who can see through all your crap, basically, who isn't affected by your crap and
Yeah.
can see it and help you to see it for yourself is, yeah, it's a beautiful gift.
Yeah.
Beautiful
Yeah.
magic power.
Magic power. Yeah. Yeah.
And I also have the question, I love to hear whether or not you have had any hero or idol or inspiration that you've really looked towards for strength when, when you're going through your spiritual awakening and maybe feeling like those fears come up that you grew up with, or uncertainty, or those moments of doubt that we all have when we're, our senses can't help us prove what we're believing. And yeah, do you have anybody that you've ever looked up to, or anybody you've looked towards that has helped you?
Well, I have my social media community, which I get a lot of connection and valid, like, understanding through that. I mean, my children are really my heroes.
I really, really understand that. Yeah.
My husband was my hero when he was alive, because he had this special gift, which I didn't even know what it was. But because he had this very strong leadership role in my family, and I kind of always enjoyed so much the fun he could create for me. So, he was kind of definitely my hero before I knew anything. And now, my oldest daughter, Viola, she's just gone from I teaching her the normal ways, and keeping her really small and confined in what I knew. She just exploded into this amazing person. And I learn a lot from Viola. I also learn a lot from my other children, because they're all pretty daring and gifted.
Yeah.
So definitely within my family, I have this amazing support. And then my social media friends, is you, like it's Jessica Reed, there's like a few others. They are Jessica Rose. When and I'm actually automatically drawn to that bit of woo-woo stuff, that angel cards and like clairvoyant and reading. I was always attracted to it. I wasn't allowed when I was younger, but now I can do it. So it's just a natural attraction to me. When I lived in New Zealand, I went to the spiritualistic church. And not that was like I looked up to them, but that was a place where I could just be with normal people, but everybody thought a bit different, that there's the spirits and the spirituality, and there's lots of spirits guiding us in this. And that what gave me a lot of support, that normal people, like, they all looked so completely normal, but we could all talk about that. So that was a bit of a supportive group I had when I was in New Zealand. That was supportive for me. But now I don't have anybody I'm really looking up to, like my children, probably.
Well, I haven't met your other children, but I've met Viola, and she's definitely a force. That's for sure.
Yeah, amazing. And she always was. When Viola was born, it was a Thanksgiving day. What a beautiful day here in Canada. And she came out, and she was there, like, loud scream, and always like forward when she was really little. And I came to this time when I really wanted to move to Canada, because it's such a beautiful country, and I lived in Germany and I felt so restricted, close to my family, laws and rules and the society. And I felt like there's more space in Canada, there's more room. So I kind of felt I wanted to go, but I didn't dare to. And I'm not sure where my husband was. I think he had the idea too, but I asked Viola when she was just 4.5 or 5, should we go to Canada? And she said, yeah, let's go. And I took that as a valid hint. Okay, then let's figure out how to go.
Yeah.
Should we go to New Zealand? I mean, my husband told me before he died, take those children to New Zealand. So I kind of knew, like, was my guide already. That was a big hero in my life. But, when the time came, I came back, and I always asked Viola, although she was like a child, and, she shouldn't really listen to a 5 or 10-year-old or 60-year-old child, but I always did, because she had this talent to be open and find out the new and
Yes.
go for new things. And I knew that about her. And I think when I wanted advice like that, I would just ask her to be validated that I could do it.
I love that. What a good mother. I feel like that's such a new paradigm way of, interacting with your child, because most of the time in past generations, it's like the child doesn't know anything, and you certainly don't consult them for anything. But yeah, it's so special that you could recognize that about her right away, even when she was little. And
yeah, when she was little, always.
Let's
Let's try it out. Let's go for it.
Oh, that's so great. Oh my goodness. Okay, so I would love to hear about any tools or modalities or systems or anything that you've come across in your recent years while going through, your spiritual awakening. Wait, first, I should have asked you. I'm so sorry, Connie. I should have asked you, what does spiritual awakening mean for you? Because it's so individual and unique, and I don't want to make the assumption on anyone's behalf that they, see it the same way that I do.
So spiritual awakening, I was actually wondered that myself when you invited me to speak on your podcast, because I haven't named it that way. But for me, spiritual awakening, what I can understand for me, is just that I kind of learned that there's more to life than what I thought it was, like this strict structure where I was like, had to fit into rules, and I wasn't allowed to listen to my own instincts or my own like things I like to do, which were maybe outside of the box, outside of the rules, what society allows you, and and do something different. And when I'm allowed to listen to my soul, and when I understand that understanding coming with it, that learning, which I have done probably through the last 8-10 years, that there is this higher guidance, and I'm allowed to try out things when it really feels right, and that actually the more I do things when I have fun, then the better life is going to be, and the more money I earn, and everything is actually so much better when I have fun. So this is kind of where I probably see myself in awakening, that hey, it is valid what I feel in there. Just listen to yourself, and there is my guidance there, and and I have so many gifts. Just bring it out into the world. And if I really don't like to work in an 8-to-5 job all my life, there is a way I can do that, and this braveness to move into entrepreneurship, that's also part of my awakening, that I can be really who my soul wants to be, who I am, who I will be. So that is kind of allowing that all to happen from the inside.
Yes, I'm so happy for you. You just have this like beautiful smile, this beautiful glow, and I feel like it's so you have this energy of being carefree, and I have no comparison of what you were like, before, like maybe 20 years ago or anything like that, but right now you just have this beautiful glowing carefree energy that is it's such a delight.
Thank you so much.
So I would love to hear about any tools or modalities or anything that you've found helpful. Has it been hard to go through your spiritual awakening, or has it just felt really good?
I think it was actually kind of slow and steady, but it felt good along the way. But it wasn't like a awakening in a one big, explosion. It was like a little more, crawl along and embrace it more and more and more. Yeah. And definitely encouragement I have started to, I have 3 sets of angel cards. I think I actually had more, but that's the ones I brought to Canada. And sometimes, I just, when I feel like I need a little bit of a message from the angels or from my guides, or, like a little bit of also like strengthening my belief, I pull angel cards. I like that really a lot. What I also do is meditate. That's what I kind of started probably 3-4 years ago now, that I learned to meditate. Like guided meditation is what I do most, but sometimes I understand now just the meditation, and I can actually do it when I go into walks or when I'm just out in nature. That's when I like to meditate the most. So just that stillness sometimes, and just then allow myself to listen to that chatter consciously. That sometimes I like that really have helped me. I also know that my mindset, sometimes needs a little bit of like support and adjusting, because I had to change it so much.
Mm-hmm.
So, sometimes like affirmations, or statements in the morning, this is going to be the best day for me ever, and I got that, or, like things like that, really encouraging affirmations have helped me to just allow all that and move forward with what's coming when I'm feeling a bit fearful. It's like I'm always safe, like,
Yeah.
and like statements of gratitude, I do them quite regularly, because that just makes me feel good, and I like that feeling inside. I kind of understand that it's like when things make me feel good, that's always where I want to go.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Do you have any advice for your younger self if you could go back in time and, talk to your younger self, let her know some things from your perspective now? What would it be?
Or just have more fun, because actually you didn't see me 20 years ago, but 20 years ago I was a very serious person. Everything was important, and or like I maybe like how I spent money was important, so I wouldn't spend money because I needed to budget the money, and I was serious about it, and I wouldn't do things when it felt like it could be fun, because I didn't want to spend the money on me. I wasn't worth it. So I actually had to do a lot of work, just my worth and my self-confidence and things like that, to be here where I'm now. So if I would have allowed myself just to have the fun, and it's going to be okay. I think, I probably, not that I didn't have fun, I had fun too at that time, but I woke up and I always had that serious kind of energy about me. And, just I probably could have had it a bit lighter already then.
It's so simple, but it's so powerful. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So I would love if you could share with the listeners what you got going on in your wellness and life coaching business. What kind of things you're working on, if you have any offers currently, and then let us know where we can find you and connect with you. And of course, I will share all of your social media links and stuff in the show notes.
Thank you so much. So I'm actually super excited, because I have started as a gut health expert, an online business already beginning of this year. And that was really exciting to launch my own business. And I kind of thought I'll niche it down to just be, not just, but, to be a gut health expert, because for me, I know that the gut is just like the heart of health, of the physical health, of the body's health, and even like feelings and intuition can come from the gut. The brain, depends on a healthy gut. So I kind of thought this is kind of it, and I'm going to be the gut health expert. But when I kind of launched that business, it felt like it's too narrowed down. And I also am so passionate about, like adventures in life, and, doing things out of the norm, and, just being brave and trying something new. So I thought I have to kind of widen that. And I'm now the wellness coach, and I'm going to launch my business in about 2.5 weeks. I'm super excited. And in my wellness coaching, I give one-on-one wellness coaching, and it can be 4, 8, or 12 weeks. I give actually 15-minute free consultation if just people want to have like a simple questions or something. I'm definitely there for people to help them to link what traditional medicine teaches them, because I have so much experience in the public healthcare system. So if people, are with their physicians and are, taking a lot of their traditional advice, and they'd like to transition into, supporting their bodies naturally, I definitely be the bridge to help them to achieve that, to maybe integrate both, but balance it more with natural ways. I am working on a program, and I'm also working on a book for giving out home remedies, the simple things that I have done in my family, and like to just pass that on and write a book, but that's not written yet, but that's in the planning.
Yeah.
And I'm in the program as well. I haven't started launching that yet, but that's going to come a little later. I'm going to definitely run some online programs as well, and that's really just the physical body's wellness. It's so important because that's our carrier, our physical body, and then our soul lives really is above us and beyond, but it's also within us. So the stronger the physical body is, the more our soul can expand and vibe, and we can do what our soul work is. And the mindset is just part of it as well. So I'll do work around that. And yeah, it's going to launch very, very soon. It's so exciting.
Those sound like beautiful offerings. I love what you just said about the body being the carrier for the soul, because absolutely. And when you're bogged down with a body that isn't working optimally, you're not going to be able to feel like, you're going to feel denser and lower vibe, because your body literally is vibrating at a lower rate, and so you don't have as much access to all of those beautiful, subtle pieces of information that are available to us at all times. You just can't reach it because your body is feeling so dense. So I love what you just said.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. And I forgot, I should have asked you before, but I'm going to ask you now. I would just love to hear you talk a little bit about sort of what it was like for you nursing in, like being a nurse, but also having a bit of a sort of spiritual and intuitive sense. Did you ever feel too hemmed in by sort of because nursing is, if it's nothing else, it is systematic. It is so systematic.
It's evidence-based.
Oh yeah, and so organized and structured. And yeah, did you ever find it hard, or do you feel like it was actually really comforting for that part of you that craved like safety and security and predictability when you were younger?
I don't even cannot explain what it is, but I ask myself that many times. I can function quite well in the hospital, in the medical society, and I know the rules because I've been there so long, right? But oh my God, my heart, I know, was always feeling it's not the right thing for so many years. I feel so restricted within that system. I see that what they do to people, and I always just shake and say this is the wrong thing, but because it's the evidence scientific approach to whatever is happening, they still gonna do it. And I, in my little roles, I, like with nursing, you see a patient and you see him for a day, maybe for 3 days, maybe for a week, but you're never ever going to be there. You're just a tiny little part in their lives. Yeah. So there's not, sometimes I just had to let it go because there was not that much influence I could have. And in that tiny little shift where I was maybe the nurse, I definitely, in words and in my empathy and in my energy, I gave people what I felt like I could give them. Yeah. But definitely it never felt like it's enough. And I often thought, oh, don't do this. This is terrible. But, I have to, because, you are employed by somebody else and this is their rules. So you have to just obey them. But definitely I felt super restricted, and I still do. Yeah. I still do this, it's something. And I'm actually wonder sometimes how I can still do and function as a nurse, because I just started another job and just really to pay my bills for right now till I have my business going. But it's something about, definitely I'm not allowed to say, and that is still there even today. And I can just, apply with my heart, or, with saying just nice things and giving them a cup of water. It's not only important to draw blood and run the x-rays. Just give them a little bit of help. They need to drink and they need to eat and they need to feel comfortable and lay down, and things like that is what I always kind of integrate in my little tiny pointer pouch when I have that moment with people. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. I deeply empathize, because even as a midwife, even though I'm not
I'm not as beholden to the hospital because I work outside of the hospital as well, but most of our births happen in the hospitals. And, you know, it's so complicated. Like, you can't go into a hospital and disrespect the way that they do things, because there's a reason that they do them that way. But I also have lots of times have been like, this isn't the right thing. This isn't what's needed. Oh, and it's very hard to be in that position where then you have to participate in it, because the system is just stronger than you are. And but my takeaway from what you just said, that I think applies to anyone and everyone, no matter what area of life they choose to apply it to, is that there's so much power in kindness. There's so much power, and you can make, you know, even when you have only a tiny fleeting passing influence in somebody's life, in the big picture, your influence can echo through the rest of their life if you come from like the space of your soul and the space of your heart and give them kindness. And that can never be minimized or, you know, invalidated, even if we don't recognize it ourselves. I can think of lots of people who have treated me with kindness when I was feeling vulnerable, that I'll always remember them, and they probably don't even know that they had that impact on me. And also my other takeaway is just that really important bit that I have to remind myself sometimes, that people are on their own journeys and their own trajectories, and we don't have to have a big role in everybody's life. It's okay to let it go and recognize that
sure.
Sometimes we're just a witness.
Yes, exactly. And you can do what you can.
Yeah.
And that's going to be enough.
Yeah. So wise.
Yeah.
Okay, Connie, this has been so wonderful. Where can we find you? Where can the listeners find you?
So I'm on Instagram at Healthy Connie, and I am at Connie Hack on my Facebook page, my personal Facebook page, and I'm going to launch actually also a group soon, so keep out for that. That's the Mission for More, the Wellness Hub. And people who are interested in learning from me or joining me in my community, they can join this group.
Yay!
We also have a website, let's not forget that.
Yes, let's not forget that.
And it's healthyconnie.com.
healthyconnie.com. Awesome. And like I said, I will put all of that in the show notes so people can connect with you. I have loved hearing your story and hearing you talk about your spiritual awakening. It's so beautiful. And yeah, I feel like I could talk to you for a lot longer. I have questions. I want to hear all about your husband. I'm probably going to have to invite you back on the podcast.
Yeah, let's do that again. That is so much fun.
Yeah, it's really lovely. And I'm so excited for you and Gifted Experts. And yeah, thank you so much, Connie, for your time.
Thank you, Amy. Yeah, it was amazing. All right.
Thank you for everybody listening. Please be sure, if you are listening, to take a screenshot and tag us in it and post it to your social media stories, Instagram or Facebook, because then we know you were listening, and it really, really feels good. Connie just did that for me yesterday, and I was like, oh, listener. So yes, please let us know if you enjoyed this episode. Thank you so much for spending your time with us today.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much for being here with me through this episode. You are beautiful, magical, and powerful. You are so appreciated. Please don't forget to rate, review, subscribe, and share. And I hope to catch you on the next episode.